Hi guys, welcome back to the Homespun Annie channel. So last week we went and took a little 2-night trip over to Washington State and the Cascade Mountains, and we stayed in a lovely little Bavarian village called Leavenworth. And this is a little town that they've made to look like you have stepped back into a village in the German Alps somewhere. And they keep their Christmas decorations up, I think, through February. I've been in February before and they've still had all their Christmas lights and Christmas decorations up. And so we just enjoyed a couple nights there, enjoying the Christmas lights and good food and just really chill, relaxed time. They even have this wonderful store called Kris Kringle, and it is all things Christmas, and it's a couple stories, and it is absolutely lovely. And so you just feel like you stepped back into Christmas time. And I loved looking at all of the ornaments, and I also am coming up with ideas for decorating for Christmas this next year already, and I think I'm going to change things up a bit and do more of a woodsy kind of woodland creature type theme. So anyway, I was looking for some ornaments and things to start adding to my Christmas stash for next year. But they have some wonderful, in this store, they have some wonderful decorations handmade in Germany. And I mean, all of the ornaments that you could imagine. And I love the glass ornaments. They are just so pretty. A lot of them look very vintage. And so I loved looking through all of the ornaments. And they also had a huge, I mean, the biggest Christmas village display I had ever seen. And it had a bunch of different brands, I guess you could say, but they put them all together to make one big massive village. And so that was really fun to look at. I would love to have a Christmas village, but we just don't have the space for it currently. But that was really fun to look at. Then they also had an upstairs with even more Christmas decorations, and they had a huge Christmas tree. So really, really fun. They had Christmas music playing. Luke and I were saying how it'd be kind of depressing to work there, because by the time Christmas rolled around, you'd probably be sick of all of the Christmas music and Christmas decorations. But anyway, really cool store. And I did end up finding a few little ornaments for my Christmas tree this next year. And I found a cute little beaver glass ornament, and so cute, absolutely loved it. And so I thought that would be really fun for the woodland theme. They had a ton of other little creatures, but of course I had to limit the amount that I was buying. And then I found this very pretty little mushroom ornament. And I have other mushroom ornaments that I purchased after Christmas this year, and some other little woodland things. So I'm just building up my stash of ornaments and decorations for Christmas coming up this next year. So after our little trip to Leavenworth, I was feeling inspired to bake something German. And so I thought I would make an apple strudel. And so I'm going to use Granny Smith apples. And I'm also going to use honey as the sweetener. You can absolutely use brown sugar or sugar, but I'm going to use honey for this recipe. I'm also going to use my all butter pie crust for the pastry. A lot of times people will use like a puff pastry, or I've even seen where they will use the tube of the crescent roll dough and use that as their pastry crust. But I'm going to use my all butter pie crust. So first thing I'm going to do is get my apples ready. And I have my handy little apple peeler that also cores the apple at the same time. And so I'm going to get these apples peeled and cored. And then these lovely little strings of apple peel are going to go to my chickens. You can actually save these and use them for making apple cider vinegar. But I'm just going to give them to my chickens this time around. So you just pull the core off of here. And then I'm just going to cut these into, I want them actually fairly small, so about 1-inch pieces. So I have had this handy little apple peeler for quite a few years now. And it works wonderfully. And it suction cups to the counter, and that's how it's held on there. You do have to have a very nice, flat, smooth surface for it to stick. And then just cut this in half, cut it in half again, and cut it in half again. So cutting this into 8ths, I guess you could say, about that size. Doesn't have to be exact. All this will go to the chickens, and they'll be very happy about that. Okay, so now to the bowl. I am going to add in some lemon zest and some lemon juice. So just the juice of 1 lemon, but I'm going to zest it first. So I'm just going to do the zest of the lemon, 1 whole lemon. And I don't know if I'm going to do all the juice. I might do half the lemon. We'll see. Oh, and for those wondering, the little apple peeler I bought on Amazon, and like I said, years ago, so you could probably just search on Amazon for apple peeler, and I'm sure there's all kinds of options that will pop up. But that one was fairly inexpensive, and it has worked great. So I'm just using this micro grater to get the zest off of the lemon. And I'm going to cut the lemon in half and squeeze it over my hand to catch any of the seeds that come out, since I'm not using a strainer for this. So this method works really well to catch the seeds. So now I'm just going to use my hands, mix that all up. Make sure the lemon juice has coated all of the apples. This will also keep the apples from turning brown. Oops. I see a lemon seed that got away. Okay, so now I'm going to add in the honey, and I'm going to do about a cup. So as I said, you could definitely use sugar or brown, like white sugar or brown sugar. I'm actually thinking I might just use, I'm actually going to just use 3/4 of a cup, because honey does tend to be a little bit sweeter than sugar. So I decided to just do the 3/4 of a cup of honey. I think that will be good. And to this, I am going to add a teaspoon of vanilla. Just about, I'm not measuring this, but you'll want to do about a teaspoon of vanilla. And then I'm going to add in some cinnamon and some nutmeg. And so I'm just going to add a teaspoon of cinnamon. And then for the nutmeg, I'm just going to use the same micro grater and take a whole nutmeg and just kind of eyeball it. And I'm just going to do about half a teaspoon or so of freshly grated nutmeg. And there is something so lovely about the smell of freshly grated nutmeg. It is one of my favorite smells on the planet. Okay, that's probably about good. You don't want to overdo it on the nutmeg. And we're just going to mix this all together. And there is some liquid coming out of the apples now that we've added the honey. So the sugar tends to draw liquid out of the apples. So what we want to do is also add some flour to this. And that will help make the juices thicken up. So I'm going to add in 3 tablespoons of flour. And that's going to help thicken that all up. Okay, so now that I have the apple filling all ready to go, I'm going to roll out my pastry. And this is, as I mentioned before, my all butter pie crust. And I have the recipe over on my blog, homespunannie.com. And I will also have it linked in the description box below. But I am just going to lightly flour my counter here and get this rolled out. And I don't want this to be a perfect circle. I actually want it to be more of a, I don't know what you call it, not even a rectangle necessarily, but a long stretched out oval, I guess you would call it. Oblong? I don't know. I don't know the technical term, but that's the kind of shape that you're going for. Doesn't have to be perfect. I personally like things to look a bit rustic, so I don't worry about perfection. So if you're here looking for the perfect way to roll out pie crust and make it look perfect, you're probably not going to find it from me. So that is not my forte. So I just like to call things rustic and leave it at that. Okay, kind of running out of room here. Move some things over. So I want to get this fairly thin. And I'm going to do the same method that I use when I'm putting pie crust onto the pie plate. I'm just going to roll it onto the rolling pin and then transfer it to my pan that way. And then unroll it over here. Okay. All right, so here is the dough on the parchment lined baking sheet. And now I'm going to put the apple filling down the middle of the pastry without making too much of a mess, which, oh well. Okay. Making sure that I get some of those juices. And just kind of pile it up down the center of the pastry dough. And as I said, you can use, people use puff pastry, they'll use the tube of the crescent roll dough. Those things will work as well. And I think traditionally it really is using the puff pastry. So even though the liquid is a little bit runny, we did add flour, so it will thicken up a bit in the baking process. And it is good, obviously, to use the parchment paper so the pastry doesn't stick to the pan, but also if there's any juices that run out of the pastry crust, they won't cook on your pan. I'll make it a little bit easier to clean up. Okay, so now what I'm gonna do is I'm actually just gonna pull this up first. Yep, it's alright, we already have spillage, you guys. Oh well. So I'm gonna cut this actually into fairly thin strips over here on the sides. I would say about 1/4 of an inch or so, 1/2 inch, well, I don't know. Between 1/2 inch and 1/4 inch. Cut this into strips. And go down the other side. Like I said, this is not going to be crazy, fancy pastry work here. And I can already see that this is going to drip out the sides. Oh well. Okay, so let me fold up this end like this, and then I'm just going to kind of willy-nilly here start bringing up these little strips. And obviously this isn't going to enclose the whole thing, which, oh well. As we get to the center, the strips are covering, which is nice. Oh, goodness. So ideally, all the strips would look like this, where they're kind of crossing over in the middle there. I think I'm actually going to cut a little bit of this end off. Okay, maybe even a little bit more. I'm just winging it here, guys, with this pie this pie crust pastry. Okay. And we'll just get the rest of the strips over here. Tuck things in. We've got lots of spillage, but hey, that's okay. It is what it is. Okay. Now I'm going to make a quick little egg wash to brush the top of this with, and we will get it into the oven. Okay, so now I'm just making a quick egg wash with 1 egg, and we're just going to add a little bit of water to this and beat it up. Just beat it up really well. And this will give the crust a lovely, glossy, golden brown color. And just make it look really pretty. Okay. Now, I don't have a pastry brush. I don't have a pastry brush. So, I'm just folding up a paper towel and using it to brush the egg wash on. And it's not ideal, but it does work. So if you don't have a pastry brush, you can use a paper towel. Folded up paper towel, just to get that egg wash on there. And I forgot to mention that I preheated the oven to 400 degrees. So it's nice and hot at 400. And this is going to bake for 30 to 40 minutes. Obviously, I will be checking it periodically. Okay, I think that's good. I think we got a good egg wash on there. Let me pop this in the oven. Okay, so while the apple strudel is in the oven, I thought I'd run down to the river really quick and kind of show you guys the ice that's been forming. Even though we don't have really any snow at all, we have finally gotten down into the teens at night and stayed in the 20s during the day. And so we have some ice forming on the river. And this usually happens every year, but it's been kind of late in coming this year, and there's still not as much as there could be. But anyway, I thought I would share it with you and show you guys how cool it looks, at least the little bit that we do have. So here you can see a lot of it will form along the closer to the shore of the river first, obviously. And it'll kind of collect and gather. It's pretty cool because right here you can kind of see how the current in that spot kind of swirls a little bit, and that kind of affected how the ice forms right there. I still have not seen the river actually freeze over completely, like across the entire river, but it has gotten pretty close. Oh, look. We've got some raccoon prints. Very cute. We have raccoons and beavers. We also have deer, of course, and believe it or not, mountain lions and bears. And I've heard coyotes before, and supposedly we can also get wolves, but I have not yet heard a wolf, but apparently we do get them. Look here, you can kind of see there's a deer track next to a raccoon track. And in the springtime and the fall, this whole riverbed right here is completely full of water and flowing. So yeah, but hey, at least we're getting a little bit of ice. I hope we get some more. It's supposed to stay nice and cold for, I don't know, the foreseeable future. So hopefully we'll get some more ice and I can show you guys. So as of right now, there is no snow in the forecast. We're just supposed to be very, very cold and also sunny. So no precipitation, but that's okay. So the river actually should be freezing some more and it should look really cool. Usually in the morning, right now it's the afternoon, in the morning, first thing in the morning, there'll be a lot of ice floating down that kind of froze up over the course of the night. Okay, well, let's head back up and check out how the apple strudel turned out. So here is the finished apple strudel, and as you saw before, there was a bunch of spillage before I started baking it, so I put it on a clean piece of parchment paper after it was done baking, but it turned out absolutely lovely. I've seen people dust it with powdered sugar afterwards, so you can definitely do that if you want to. So it turned out really good. I have the recipe over on my blog, homespunannie.com. I will also have it linked in the description box below. And I made some adjustments to the recipe, just things that I would have done differently. But other than that, it turned out absolutely delicious. So I really hope that you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, please give it a like. Subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. Share it with someone else you think would enjoy it. And I will talk to you guys in the next video.